Well, I'm back in the hotel room at last. Actually, it's the next day. I was quite busy editing up that video, but now I want to talk about Iran. What actually happened in Iran? Number one, I had political asylum. Number one, Mr. Javed, a representative of the Foreign Ministry, saw me in person at the Hotel Ferozi on November the 24th. Let me get that date right. I'll get it out of my diary. He stated straight out, his English was limited but tolerable. I had no Farsi, so he won. He sat across from me. I actually really liked him. He was clearly a good sense of humour, man. He said, "You have political asylum. Relax." Now, there's a reason why. They knew I was communicating via email. I was very angry and frustrated, particularly with the firewall. I was having a lot of trouble getting out. I did feel slightly anxious, isolated and alone. I had limited funds. It was the worst pollution in their history. I landed in the middle of the worst pollution in the history of Tehran, and trust me, it's pretty bad. Due to geography and the refinement of their fuel. Regardless, while I was booking my ticket to get out, and there's a reason for that, I just let me slightly go off to the left a little. The final straw for me was, I'm not going to carry it for you. People have said, "Why have you left, Brendon? You are always leaving. What's the problem? Is it them or you? Because you're always falling out with people." That was the reason. That was the final straw in the first case. I thought, I'm getting out of here. I can't deal with this. This is doing my head in. So there you go. That was the first time. I was very diplomatic when I came back to Malaysia, and I did a little post saying, "Well, unfortunately, things didn't work out, and I should have said I didn't have much money, but I was sort of like a stunned mullet." And Mr. Javed says, "Are you happy here?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I should have said it, but I don't have any money, so I have to accept some responsibility for that." But that's what Hammy told me, and that was the first. Didn't want to deal with it, and I'd already had many suspicions against Press TV. They were known for editing people out. I did a terrible interview with them back in June 2014. I was told, "Don't say Jew, say Zionist." Don't. So I couldn't even think. We're trying to watch what I say, and I at the time I was just not in the right frame of mind to do interviews. They rang me repeatedly to do more interviews. I said no, not for any particular reason other than I just didn't feel ready, and I was still hoping to get to the High Court. So Press TV tried, but a lot of people have said they won't talk about Jewish racial and religious supremacism. They won't focus on issues for very long. They'll throw a story and then back off. Mr. Pasipov from the Persian Gulf Studies Centre stated to me through someone else that when they did address Jewish racial and religious supremacism, they lost their satellite for 2 years. Not sure when, but that's what I was told. And it's an Israeli satellite. Go figure. Here are some more anomalies about Iran. The family I was put with, the lawyer, David, ambulance chasing tosser, a man who was weird. I thought he was either on high doses of Zoloft, a selective serotonin uptake inhibitor of some kind, or methamphetamine or cocaine. He was florid. He was either bipolar or something, and he's carrying on. He's just talking for hours, and we'll do this and get some Australian Aboriginal people over, Brendon, for the big 50th anniversary, and do this. And I said, "Oh, that sounds good. I'll ring Mervyn up," and then Lashkar, I'd go, "David, do you want to speak to Mervyn?" And, "Oh, no." Next day, he was weird. He'd have this huge, florid, flowing talk for an hour. He wouldn't shut up. And then he was like, he's on drugs, and I suspected drugs. Sorry, I have to say it. It's a bizarro world. I was treated very well materially. Don't you worry about that. I was treated very well materially. I was given $1,000 phone, laptop, very nice apartment. I was put in Hunza, where Dr. Zaref, the foreign minister, hails from, a very traditional town, well-known town, one of the longest 3,000-year history, I think, that place in the past. Very nice. But I was isolated. No one spoke English. The internet wasn't working half the time. I was very frustrated. I couldn't talk to anyone. I had obligations to people back in Perth, like Terence McLernon, who's an anti-corruption campaigner, former police officer, private investigator, to do with, he just got the largest defamation case against him, over $800,000, due to his books. You can look his books up online, to do with corruption. Collins Circles Pace, ex-fraud squad, piece of garbage. Anton Billis, billionaire gold miner and fraudster. Terry McGee, another fraudster. There's a whole bunch of them. In fact, they ripped off a big Malaysian businessman and politically connected man here in Kuala Lumpur. They've got no shame. They're clearly, typical pieces of garbage, in my view. They all hang out together with organised crime figures. And you've got to wonder how these people get by and why they aren't pulled up. Well, of course, because they're in the bed with the WA police. That's why. So with these things in mind, I'm stuck there. I can't do any of my obligations to people that I've promised. Very frustrated to the point where I was so angry. You should have seen the emails I was sending. And they did not like me sending encrypted emails. They chucked hissy fits when I sent encrypted emails. They cut my connection constantly. I mean, what? I didn't know where the atom bomb factory was. But look, let me cut it a bit short. I was very nice. The lady I was staying with, which is sister, Mrs. Son, works in Swiss banking. They own $1 million of apartments all over Tehran, huge apartment blocks. All I got from her was, oh, Jews are lovely people. You mustn't hate Brendon, over and over and over again. It just went on for days. She's clearly got mental health issues to do with long-term cortisol use, as we sort of surmised. Her memory's gone. She was saying, well, do you want to go to Syria, Brendon, work in Syria and do this? I was like, yeah, okay. She tried to convert me to Islam endlessly, to the point where it was driving me insane. She was jumping in cars and travelling here and travelling there constantly, just at the drop of a hat. I was being paraded around like a freaking Barbie doll, panda bear, getting patted on the head. I'm sorry, I didn't like it. I had work to do. I was not there on pleasure or a tourist. I was there on business. I just wanted to speak to someone. I asked to speak to David in the US. Oh no, we can't talk over the phone, Brendon. I said, David, everything is online. Nothing is hidden. Nothing we say is not already going to be known. Because what I wanted to say to him was, I don't want political asylum. I just want to speak to government officials to lean on the Australian government, all right, to stop persecuting me and carrying on like pork chops, admit to what they've done in terms of the Israeli ambassador and the huge criminal contempt of court and international incident that took place in 2010 where the Israeli state came out against me. I thought this was child's play. They had good relations with Australia, and I could return to WA and a possible parliamentary inquiry and or the High Court. That was the dream. He had no interest in that whatsoever. He did the political asylum application. I said, fine. I was just sitting there going, well, let's carry on. And I just got to dislike the man intensely. Of course, he gave me materially whatever I want, but so does a Catholic priest when he's grooming a Catholic choir boy as well. That's not the issue. The issue was I pulled him up numerous times for his behaviour. His smirking, weird attitude. The guy's a tosser. I think he's a closet homosexual or something. He used to say, oh, Brendon, must be good to be around this really masculine man. He's a tosser. He's an absolute tosser. I was going, oh, God, don't open your mouth, please. I think it was January the 24th, a Tuesday night, he was that off his head. He couldn't stand properly. He couldn't peel a carrot. He was stumbling. He was mumbling his words and smiling like this. I kid you not. I'm just sitting there going, that's it. And this is when I was about to do this Tehran conference, trying to organise, contacted Dr. Alan Sabrowski about Israeli intelligence activity. And I'm just going, this is it. I have to leave. I just can't stand this any longer. So the next day, Wednesday in the morning, I was fuming. I decided to hang on, Brendon. He's going to be leaving soon. And I said to him, David, the introduction for the Tehran conference needs to be done in a better place. I think the Milad Tower, the big tower in Tehran, would be a good place. And he just went, just turned around and walked off. He's done this 1,000 times. I just went, okay, forget it. So I just said nothing, got in the car as he drove along. I said, David, I have to bring up your behaviour last night. You were off your head on something. I said straight up to him. He goes, no, I was just tired. He's a liar. He reminds me of a drug addict. They can just lie at the drop of a hat. Florid. He's a tosser fraudster. That's what he is. We've got his all the complaints against him in the US. I don't know how he's started his own associates law firm, but he's got a Jewish Orthodox mentor who's his mentor. He said this to me quite openly. He's got a lot of Jewish friends. So maybe they've funded his little law firm. Maybe he's working for Israeli intelligence or American intelligence. So maybe Iranian intelligence. I might want to check that out. Sorry, that's Israeli intelligence. Because that's what you do. You get a fraudster, drug addict, fool like he is, and you say you work for us now, little bitch. And they put him up in his little law firm. I'm just speculating. I have no idea, but he's that typical personality. So these are the things that were going on, and as people said, as I complained to them over the internet and via WhatsApp and emails, this is driving me insane, this guy. And they, and they say, Brendon, how do you find these people? Remember, he invited me, begged me to come to Iran. So, he's saying, you're fantastic, Brendon, and all this, and grooming me with this pathetic amateur psychology, which I cannot stand. If they wanted me to clean up the blog and act more responsibly, all they had to say was, Brendon, we're going to move you up a level. You're fantastic in front of the camera. We've got you your suits. You present at the drop of a hat with hardly any rehearsal. You've got a real talent for this. We're going to get you a job at Press TV, but you need to clean things up, please. Please rearrange your blog, change due design, as to whatever, the usual stuff that everyone wants to do. Maybe with some plain talking I would have done that, but this constant refusal to address those two main pillars, which is Israeli intelligence activity, their domination of databases, Operation Telpiot, the Technion, their infiltration via Sandims, their Hezbollah operations, putting their own people into the American corporate world, into the Pentagon, into the State Department, Rabbi Dov Zakheim, Michael Chertoff heading Homeland Security and NSA subcontractors, spying on everyone. So that's why Netanyahu wields so much power. He's got all the European banking cartels, even the European Jewish banking cartels, the more cultured and refined Jews from the UK and Europe. They're all half of them pedophiles and sexual deviants and whack jobs. He's got them all on tape. That's why I think they're happy to see Iran and Israel nuke each other, first chance. The George Soros crowd obviously hate Netanyahu. Those issues they just weren't interested in. I had to scream for 3 weeks till finally said, okay, well, why don't you see about a conference? We'll organise it with the Persian Gulf Studies Centre, Mr. Parsapur. Now, those guys have disappeared their website now. The website is offline. But they were just didn't want to hear about Jewish racial and religious supremacism. There's something very wrong. Something very wrong. I don't know whether they've done deals with their local Iranian Jews. They seem very particular about upsetting them. Maybe they run errands backwards and forwards to Europe, bypassing sanctions. They've probably got in Swiss banking, European Jews working in Swiss banking. There are Iranians clearly working in Swiss banking. I was staying with members of their family. And sanction busting, and maybe they were doing deals with the European Jews, not to mention those subjects. It's just a theory. But that's the fact. And as far as I'm concerned, you don't want to talk about this, then there's no point me being here. There is no point in me being here. I'll walk, buddy. We're stand-up arguments. He's a smart ass too. He's a snicker to himself. He's weird. I think he's bipolar or something. Something wrong with him. I remember just being in a fine restaurant where I did one of those Julian Assange videos, and a woman had her headscarf was down around her neck, and David Lashkari looks at her and he's got this big to the thing. It's like, dude, chill out. He's a twat. He's probably seeing hookers and bloody strippers in bloody Georgia, Atlanta, where he's based. These fanatical Iranians who live overseas, of course they're fanatical because they don't live there. They're always the worst. They're always the biggest fanatics for the revolution because they don't live there. They party and do coke and drink alcohol and go to strip clubs in the US. Then when they come back to Iran, of course, they're very pious. They're fraudsters, man. They're full of it. The fact of the matter is probably 60 to 70% of the general population of Iran is behind the revolution to varying degrees. Obviously they worry about the economy, which is doing pretty well considering. But the rich set of Tehran, the intelligentsia, the business class, they would sell out to Israel and the United States like that. All right, they're beaming BBC Persia, they're beaming in, there's $120 million budgets for these LA Iranian channels that are beaming Iranian TV from Los Angeles into Iran by satellite. $120 million worth, Persian pop, little tarts pretending to be Lady Gaga and that, and all these young Iranian males are just there, their guys are agog. They just got their little rat claws in, and they're just trying to tear at that generation gap to say, come to LA, be a porn star, take drugs, party. Then there's coke there's every drug under the sun there, meth, heroin. It has one of the biggest and best drug rehabilitation programs in the world. Did you know that, in Iran? They party in their privacy of their homes, so the Iranian government basically has a policy, don't do it on the streets, do it in the privacy of your home, we don't want to know about it. There's ganja on the streets, man. You go to these little art cafes and whatnot, they're all smoking spliffs on the street, it's tolerated, but you didn't know that. I didn't know that till I went there. What's that smell? But alcohol is not tolerated at all. And I must admit, at the age of 46, I'm kind of glad. But if I was 20, I would be rebelling, actually. I would be rebelling. I mean, ironically, when I got out of the airport and was picked up by some of Lashkari's associates, 2 women, 2 men, they literally stuck a full plastic cup full of 100 proof vodka in my hand and screamed, "No freedom!" And you imagine I'm just sitting there going, "Oh, for God's sake, this is not boding well." And I said, "Yeah, mate, there's not much freedom in the West too, except to shop and download porn, so, you know," but we couldn't communicate very well without the English, but I thought this is not bode well again. So anyway, that's probably part of the story. I could tell you lots of details. I met some wonderful people, very gentle people, Iranians in general, very cultured, a little bit arrogant. You know, they're always going on about their culture and comparing themselves to the Arab states, and we have 3,000-4,000 years of culture. They are the product of British intelligence and blah, blah, blah. And this is not bringing people together, at least Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who many claim to be Jewish, whatever. At least he attempted to bring some solidarity to the Middle East and to Iran. When he went to, if you remember, he went to Egypt and was soundly, went through very hostile crowds. He had balls to do that. Say what you will about Ahmadinejad. He slept on the floor. He was an example of the revolution. Stories of him when he gets on the bus with his little pail that his wife makes up, traditional Iranian food. Till his security said, "We can't do this anymore. You're going to get done over on this bus." But he acted very statesman-like. He was very funny. When he came under pressure, he said things like, "This is the age of peace and dialogue, not bullets and bombs." But what have the moderates done? What's his name? Rouhani and his crew. What have they done? And the Ayatollah Khomeini, as opposed to Ayatollah Khamenei, it's one or the other, the new Ayatollah. What did they do? Like little brats, they screamed when Trump was talking about banning Muslims. They started banning Americans and carrying on like pork chops, instead of just acting calmly and they look really bad. And then what is with this death to America, death to Israel? I go to a mosque in Tadrish. It's very nice, very moving. The imam in there was just beautiful singing. I mean, it was moving to me to tears. And then you look up on the wall outside the mosque in the common area, and there's "Death to America, death to Israel." And I said to the lawyer, "Dude, that looks really bad." I mean, I sometimes think that myself in my bad days, but that looks really bad. This is a nation state. You can't be saying stuff like that. He said, yeah, I guess. And then you go and there's big billboards like when they captured those American sailors, and it's really tacky. It's tacky. It looks silly. And then the protests burning American flags, "Death to America," and all this stuff. It looks ridiculous. You are playing into the hands of Benjamin Netanyahu. They're spending an awful lot of resources on ballistic missile technology. They've probably got thousands of them. And they probably could do some severe damage to Israel without doubt. But they would be a glowing radioactive pile of ash if they did that. So what's the point? Look, those centrifuges are for an atom bomb. They've got the second largest gas fields in the world. They don't need a nuclear reactor, all right? I've always given them the benefit of the doubt, but after being there, sort of the attitude's no way. We wouldn't a freaking atom bomb. I mean, I just don't see the point. They'd be better off focusing on Israeli intelligence activity and Jewish racial and religious supremacism. That would be a better idea, would it not? I don't know. I don't know how they run it. Am I being unfair? Who am I? They've got a country to run. I don't know. But I would say without Israel, as an Iranian dissident said to me, well, he wasn't a dissident, he was driving a taxi and he wasn't happy. And I got chatting with him one day and he said, "Look, dude, Iran needs Israel and Israel needs Iran to hold the countries together. I mean, Israel is going to fracture into a million pieces. It's constantly under tension. It needs the threat of Iran. It needs the threat of the Arab states around it. Then we have, unless of course they form greater Israel and expand out. Then of course we have Iran, and they're split down many lines, hardcore lines, less hardcore lines, split down some ethnic lines. It's held together by this war. But I will tell you, anything that says to you it's a police state is garbage. You can do just about anything you want. They look after their people. There's no 30-year mortgages in Iran. Most people use cash. There's a lot of Porsches and luxury cars around. The economy's going along. They have a lot of Afghani labour because I gather the Iranians don't like shovels. They like to get PhDs though. They've got a booming high technology sector based around the military industrial complex. I've been finding some WikiLeaks articles about some Australian stuff on Iran saying they're quite paranoid and sometimes a little bit not grandiose, I've forgotten the word. Anyway, it was along those lines, grandiose and arrogant and a bit delusional. Harsh words, but that was along, and I see why. I see that. I felt there was a cultural cringe. Like, I always said, "Oh, do you like Iran?" Some actually said, "What are you doing in Iran? Why don't you stay in Australia? Why would you come here?" But there was a cultural cringe saying, "Do you like us? Please tell us you like us," because I think they're just so isolated in the last 40 years. But there's some beautiful aspects to that. They're not poisoned with the crap. The kids aren't poisoned with the crap. The kids are very academic. There's a lot of wholesome stuff that goes on. You know, I guess I could talk for a long time about what I saw and experienced in 2.5 months. It was unfortunate. Maybe things could have worked out without that lawyer. It was sad. You know, here's some me leaving the airport. Here's me in the car as I was driving to the airport. I took a bit of video footage. I got past customs. We were going to get that on the Wednesday. I left on the Monday or the Sunday. Going to get my passport stamped for an extra 3 months. It was already 35 days over, 30 days over, 35. And that was when I just grabbed it off him and said, "You're a retard, mate. I just can't stand you. Give me that damn passport. I'm not leaving it here. I'll probably lose it." And I left and went to the thing and slept there that night and got up in the morning and went to a backpackers. And his last words to me were calling me a MF, which you've heard about, and I've distributed that around, where I tell him over and over, "Dave, did I not tell you I didn't want political asylum?" He's very worried. He was using Telegram to contact me, the app Telegram. He's a nut. And because I found some stuff on him, I just sent it to him, you know, about his rebuking by judges and the people that said he's a rip-off merchant. He was going off going, "Don't contact me!" Exclamation mark. Don't. I'm not even contacting him. He just went on for half an hour. He's a nutcase. He's 100% lunatic. He's got all his. He sent me his new photos when he's in his suit and he's doing his blue steel looks. I'll put them up. Oh no, let's leave it for now. I'll save it. I'm going to save it for a rainy day. Straight. I'm going to ring lawyers in Malaysia and have you arrested, you fugitive. Right? He's a nutcase. Yeah, where do I meet these people? I don't know. But that's been the tone for the whole thing. Just one macabre joke after another. You know, I remember when I first flew into Malaysia, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I felt so comfortable here. Things just fell into place. Mate of a mate had an apartment here. He said, "Look, dude, if you need it for a couple of weeks, I'm not there. I'm not my girlfriend." So it was just great. But I thought, I've got to give Iran a go. I was warned not to go repeatedly. I went, met Colonel Hosseini and his partner in passport and border control intelligence. Grilled me for 3 hours. They were good. I could just tell they were good people. I met a lot of good people, but there's something wrong there. There's something wrong. I don't know whether they've done deals with George Soros to avoid sanctions or whatever, but there's something very wrong. You can decide. I'm not the first to criticise Press TV. Some very nice people that work at Press TV. But we saw Al Jazeera recently do this brilliant 4-part series on Israeli spying or an influence of UK politicians and the young Friends of Labour and Friends of Israel groups. You know, it's time Press TV started doing some stuff too. They never did my interview. Pammy promised me a 20-minute segment, just like Gwyneth Todd. They did on Gwyneth Todd. And Pammy's a good guy, and he would have done it, but he said, "Brendon, they're just stalling me, they're not getting back to me, and I probably don't need any funds. So thanks for nothing, Press TV." You know, obviously you have people you don't want to upset, obviously. So anyway, that's a shortish version. Yeah. What can I say? Many thanks to people who donated. $175. That's a week here. Fantastic. It's taken a load off my mind. But could you please donate if you can afford it, even if it's $20 via PayPal. It's BOC at boc.rocks. Or even Bitcoin. Someone sent Bitcoin. I'm still waiting for that to clear. That was $280. Hasn't cleared yet. I put on my blog my PayPal thing so you can see exactly how much money I've received. It ain't been much. But I need this money to keep going. There's a few plans. I need a couple more weeks and then I'll have to see about heading back to Australia. But there might be something come up. I'm not sure yet. We'll see what happens. Been getting some interesting emails from Malaysian expats offering assistance with contacts, so we'll try and follow those up and see what happens. But in the long term, the goal is to return to Australia and get into the High Court at some stage. If the Malaysian government were in some way to pressure the Australian government, say you need to negotiate with this man and need to admit to what you've done, he certainly admitted to his own behaviour, and it's time the West Australian establishment and the Australian establishment also admitted to their behaviour. Interesting side note, I see some relative of Kim Jong-il was assassinated at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Funny, I've stood in front of that counter where he was supposedly splashed in the face with some liquid and died. Assuming you believe that, he's probably been disappeared to his Swiss bank account somewhere. I don't know, whatever. But interesting times. Yeah, so I'm going to sign off. Coming up next will be a report on the charges I faced in Perth, why I left, the incredible incidences where Stephen Lieblich, Jewish community leader, managed to have me arrested for causing him offence by calling him a CATSA, a case officer for Israeli intelligence. I mean, that's a first. You think people would be ringing me, can we interview you? This case is extraordinary. A few people have started reading my legal documents. Again, they're on my blog, isolitebutpreserve.com and www.boc.rocks, bulk.rocks. You can find it, read it, people are blown away by it, and you'll start to understand what's been going on and how crazy it is. You think people will be lining up, please, can we do an interview with you, please? Nothing, not a thing. Not a thing. Makes me wonder, really makes me wonder. Thanks for everything, ciao for now. Coming up next, Steve Lieblich, Detective Elizabeth Valletta, and all the goings on, the media reporting, want to cut people's heads off with ISIS. I mean, you're just going to go, dear God, what the hell is going on? So I'm going to get all these videos down, so when I do finally return, they want to lock me up, they want to, go after me, I'm going to be fighting back big time, believe me. Let's see what can be done, let's see what can be organised. If you can donate, I thank you. If you can please push my blog, push my articles, push my videos, please put the links around, go out to bat for me, explain to people my case, why they should be listening to it, go to radio show hosts and podcasts and ask why they're not interviewing me. And we'll also be getting later on into what people have said about me, particularly Mark Glenn, Dr. Frederick Tobin. In the next couple of days we'll also do that. And it's time to get things on the record. Okay, ciao for now. See you tomorrow.